Hello and welcome everyone. This is Perfect TastingBOX again, and I'm here with Chris Delalonde, Master Sommelier, and we're tasting wines from the Iberian Peninsula, so Spanish and Portuguese wines. But before we head in, let's check the intro out. And here we are back with Christopher. Hello.
How are you doing?
Very good, very good.
Yeah, I've got three very exciting wines in front of me for which I've run some testing already. So I wrote some few notes, so I'm going to read some of them because there's it's quite a lot of information in those. So we believe we start with the Baloiro, yes, the Bierzo. So
Yes, exactly.
west of the country, basically Spain. Bierzo is an appellation that, again, 15 years ago, nobody talked about. Mainly red, with a grape variety that is unique called Mencia, that for long has been connected to the Cabernet Franc of France. But DNA tests have actually showed that it's not the case. Mencia is Mencia. Even though on tasting notes, you very often could compare both grape variety being quite similar, especially because there's a sort of a rusticity, again, that will depend on the winemaking and the climatology of that specific year, of course. But in general, as winemaking techniques really evolves in the right direction, and also climate change, we find more and more fantastic beers are coming to the fore onto the market. That really have so much style, but also personality. It's just unique. But as I was saying, they also produce a bit of white. But here we are with the red expression, 2019. From Baloiro, which is basically the name of the cuvée Baloiro, and it's a Seleccion de Vinas, so en Vina, which means basically it's a parceller selection. They really select the best plot as to produce this wine that will classically in that part of the world will be produced in stainless steel as to prepare and organize and go through alcohol fermentation and malolactic, so deacidification, and then will be oakage with mainly French and American oak, a little bit like Rioja, for 10 months. So not a long aging profile as to really maintain that freshness and that forward flavor profile. This estate was created in 2002 and is 18 hectare large, so quite a large estate to work from. So I believe they do 6 different wines within the Luzdivina Amigo estate, the name of that domain. And
I love the name, by the way, Amigo. Yeah.
yeah. Luzdivina Amigo. Amigo being obviously friend in Spanish.
Yeah.
So they do 3 whites and 3 different reds. Bierzo itself is actually quite vast. It's almost 3,000 hectares planted. Again, white, red, a bit of rosé, and some experiments with sparkling and so on and so forth. As a vintage, it's rather a difficult vintage once more because they had everything: hail, frost, drought. But the final product was actually very good because you had a lot of concentrated berries, not a lot of it, so it's not much wine produced, but actually the quality of the raw material is actually quite exquisite. Therefore, why this wine is in my view rather beautiful as well as delicious, but as to me, I sense a capacity of aging as well, not to be forgotten. This is kind of things we could definitely forget in a cellar for maybe a couple of years, not much more than that, as to see how those things will develop. On the tasting notes that I went through, even though I've got a bit of a glass in front of me, which was helpful to remind myself why I wrote this and not something else. Yeah, it's all that kind of blossom, plums, figs, black olive, bramble, the red currant, red pepper. It's extremely juicy. Even on the nose, you really have that sort of forward approachability. It's really kind of developed, still developing indeed, but they give you that sort of deliciousness, that sexiness. You really want to dig into the wine quite quickly.
Yes, quite rustic nose. Yeah.
That's from, I guess, from the oak treatment, but it's still very generous in general. Yes, you have the red peppers. As I was saying, this is for me the element that really connect Mencia to Cabernet Franc. And it's quite intense and generous, as said, on the nose, and the palate follows with the same frame in intensity as such, with the ripe character, the forward, definitely a juicy attack, very, very, very sort of sexy and approachable, as I said earlier on, and a beautiful mid palate combination of stone fruit, floral note as well, berries, some earthy characters, a bit of plough earth, definitely some spices coming through, the black and the green peppers, and a sort of savory touch that kind of start from the mid palate and kind of elongate the wine with little touch of bitterness toward the end and fresh fruit character. It's beautiful. And again, you've got that really distinctive tannic structure, toward the back of your palate. And this to me where I'm coming from with the idea of aging and cellaring of that wine, even though, being open for a couple of hours will definitely diminish that powerful tannic structure. It's something that you keep in mind that, yes, exactly, in a couple of years, that will completely be developed and assimilated to the wine. So I think it's a gorgeous wine now, but definitely can age nicely in a perfect cellar.
Exactly. Oh, well, that was very nicely put. I was going to mention, if anyone wants it, actually, have to go for it quickly because it's very limited production as well.
Yeah.
Very,
Well,
very
and
old,
it's
old
such
ones as well.
a small cup, but with 14.5 alcohol, it's very well integrated. You don't really feel any of
Yeah,
the of this,
good balance. Yeah,
flavor. Yeah, a beautiful balance and freshness. Again, 17 to 19 Celsius in terms of pouring. Don't hesitate to open it early or decant, large glassware, and then play with it. It's a wine that can be drunk really now, sort of wintry character, but will definitely play with barbecue flavor during the summer as long as you maintain the temperature as usual quite low in order to maintain that juiciness and that fresh fruit character.
I can probably announce that this is going to be on the barbecue, which we're doing with Chris Delalonde, where the tickets are, what was it, £400 per person or something? And then I'm going free, right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's one of the wines.
£400 for half a person.
Yeah.
Because if it's one person like me that drinks as much as me, we won't have enough wine. That's for sure.
Well, yeah. But anyway, I do agree. It's a wonderful one. I really, really like it. I
I
didn't
really,
expect too much from from the label, but I know the grape variety, I know the region, and I think it's just, it delivers everything what it
yeah, it
was.
has a touch of modernity in terms of the labeling and even in the winemaking technique, you would assume. But it's really well made. It's a beautiful and delicious wine that will please a lot of different people, especially if you want to discover some other grape variety that you're not really used to when it comes to their names, even though it's still European, but we haven't really touched very far as yet with Perfect Cellar, with some esoteric varieties that could be enjoyed. There's a classicism in the selection, which is fine. Slowly but surely, Roma wasn't built in one day, as they say.
Exactly. I was going to mention that obviously I put the price and the region and ABV and everything down there, and the regular price and the Cellar Master price, obviously, for the bottle. But if you guys buying the Perfect Tasting Box, it looks a little bit like this. And you obviously have the boxes, which you can open up like this. And then a bit of snippet down here, pour it into a glass, and it's 100 ml. And it's a perfect tasting size, actually. So. And I think we can both vouch for the quality of the boxes, because a lot of people probably wondering what is the tasting box is about, but it's all about tasting premium top quality wines with really in a style what you would get it from the bottle as well. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah. It's a perfect combination of size, 100 ml, so you can have a nice, decent glass without having to buy the bottle. So you can explore if you like it or not. You can play with the temperature, warmer or cooler, even though I would definitely keep the box in the fridge. And also, yes, the closure are absolutely fantastic. The wines,
yeah,
there's no difference between what comes from those little plastic bags that are completely recyclable, by the way, and the bottle. They are absolutely the exact mirror of the products. And the beauty of this box is that you can do game. You can really play with your friends, have a couple of boxes, and then do that on the blind testing and what is it and why not, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
it's actually quite a very good format as to enjoy a glass of wine or two or three without having to open a bottle, three different style or one a day or whatever. And as I said, over the weekend, I have different test boxes and then it's kind of play around in blind testing. So yeah, it's really good fun and it's very easy to operate.
Yeah. Going to Portugal, like just hopping to the other side of the Iberian Peninsula.
Yeah. Where we follow the Douro River, the mighty Douro, which comes to Portugal and changed name obviously to the Douro. And the Douro, without any equivoque, is one of the most famous river and region in the world because of the production of port.
Yeah, exactly. But this
Port.
is obviously not port. It's
No, it's
still
a
red
still.
wine.
Port obviously is probably one of the oldest appellation in the world with the Metrian Treaty in the 17th century. But more importantly, still wine were started to be produced in the 50s. Started to produce this famous cuvée in 1952 or 4 is the first vintage. So obviously it came much later than the 17th century, but it's not a new project as to produce still wine in that part of the world. I mean, two family here that infuse their knowledge as well as their great know-how. The George Roquette from Quinta do Crasto, and a few, unfortunately, Jean-Michel Cazes from Chateau Lynch-Bages, and the name on the label. And it's a project that started in 2002. And here, variety-wise, it's classic Portugal. Touriga Nacional, which is basically the main grape variety in Portugal, recognized as one of the best in the country. Touriga Franca and Titaroris. And Titaroris, for the story, is called Tempranillo in Spain. The grape of Rioja, the grape of many, really different red wine in the other side of the peninsula.
Completely different to the previous red. It's when you smell it, it's just
you are you are in complete different register. I mean, as much as the Bierzo have juicy approach and sort of drinkability, easiness, the Rocket Cars is more of a hypnotic, I would almost say, psychologic and philosophic wine where you pour and then you forget it for a couple of hours and then you come back to it and then you leave it a little bit or you even cellar it. I mean, it's 2020, so it's still a young wine, even though you have some evolution into it. But the complexity, the intensity, the power really give that wine an aging profile that is unique. But the grape variety also define an expression that you can't really find anywhere else. What I got here on my tasting notes is again very much developing, but again after some opening time. I think I opened that about 2 hours before I could test it because he really wouldn't come. It was very tight, and
it's
then
very
eventually
close. Yep.
up. It's broad, it's booty, it's intense, it's powerful. And even though it has that sort of tight nose, it just doesn't want to reveal altogether. You need to work for it a little bit. And then it's less with super dark fruit, super ripe dark fruit, black gemstone fruit, cassis, red currant, chocolate, spices, and there is definitely some grilled meaty notes. It's definitely concentrated and rather punchy. The nose, has a lot to say. And then that basically translates as on the palate where it delivers with the same power and concentration. The dark fruit, the cooked jam fruit character, again, stone fruit, spices, earthy, forest floor, a touch of ink. And to me, ink is exactly that. Is that sort of boom, it's that powerhouse that you have on your palate, and that really sun bath, fruit that's unique to a location like the Douro. And then also some sort of garlic notes. You got a sort of Mediterranean aspect to it, lavender and almost some licorice I found. The meat palette is definitely full on. It's brutal, but it's not brutal. But it has sort of weight and that sort of heavy load with the toast, the clove, the cinnamon, the oaky character, and also some prunes. The sort of stone fruit that's been really ripened to the core. Beautiful, great weight and a balance of acid structure. Again, this is even though it's in infanticide, it's in youth it has everything here in place that will come to the fore in a couple of years. Beauty, elegance, even though quite a stratospheric structure.
I was going to mention, actually, I know it's very, I don't know, generic, stereotypical, but people always say that Portuguese wines are great value for money. And I think this case is the perfect example. I mean, the amount of wine what you get for the price is ridiculous. I mean, it's huge, it's elegant, it's big, and I think it's a lot of people would love something like this, because it's also can be a very, I don't know how to say this, but more like crowd pleaser in many ways, as well
Yeah,
as an elegant wine.
there is definitely a sort of aristocratic Bordeaux style into it, and then
Yeah.
you can really decipher that from the Cazes, approach in winemaking. And I completely agree with the sort of value for money, as there is so much wine. But again, it's one of those wines that you can buy, a couple of bottles, and then you
Mm.
drink one in 6 months, one in a year, and then if you have more, in a year and a half and 2 years, and you see the wine will evolve every 6 months or every year. It has so much in its bag. It's definitely punching over its weight. That's the minimum we can say. But again, 14.5 alcohol, and you don't feel anything. It's so well integrated and superbly well knitted. The mind or two minds as such behind that label
Yeah.
to deliver such a beautiful wine. Yeah, you need proteins. For me, that's a wintry wine, if I use that expression,
Yeah.
and I would go with venison, wild boar, game, maybe more on the hair than on the feather, if you see what I mean.
Hmm.
Stew bolognese character, ragu, the way the Italian Piemontese do it, when you got a lot of red wine sauce that have been reduced. This is sort of thing that would work wonders, and definitely some hard cheeses, because there's definitely a savory notes there and a beautiful acidity that will get through. So no, a great wine, a great wine, no, without doubt, without
Yeah.
doubt.
Ton of value, and I think with this Tintaroris, Touriga Franca, Touriga Nacional blend, classic Portuguese varietals. But as you mentioned, because of how the project being built up, is you can get that sort of slightly aristocratic style of Bordeaux in there, with that sort of very unique and plenty of value for money Portuguese Douro side combined together. I think it's fantastic. Yeah.
Structure, the sort of really square, the oak implement that is just what you need without going too hard. It You shouldn't say what's not, but it's not modern. There is a certain rusticity to it. It's really belongs to Europe, but it's definitely something. It's definitely a wine that has been before being made. It's been thought.
Yes.
You can really get that on the way the wine really delivers.
Yeah, but I think it's fantastic value again, and two completely different reds, which is like, yeah,
Even though if you think about it, they're not that far away when it comes to
yeah.
kilometric, but they are very different in the way they deliver and the mind behind it. The philosophy behind of both labels are very different.
And with that, let's go with Christopher Delalonde style and finish off with the white, shall we? Mother Frades, the now it's more like an iconic blue bottle, but I think a lot of people know it already. I think again one of those classics which people sort of recognize, and at the same time they don't know how good Albarino can be. And I think this is a great example again.
When I went to Galicia years ago and went around and this project came to life, I was like, why do you go with a blue bottle? Why are you doing this? It's just so vile. It's just keep to this classic. The wines are good. The wine will be good. What you're doing is great, but the blue bottle, I think, is just a step too far. And I still think of that, even though the one inside that bottle is absolutely delicious. It is. There's no word. There's no other word. It's delicious. Uh,
I, I
the
was exactly the same, actually. I was exactly the same about the bottle when I first saw it. I was like, who would do this? But then slowly but surely you realize that actually, from a marketer's point of view, it's perfect because people do remember it. This is the Albarino what people remember.
But even the philosophy, everything they do at the estate is co-managed in a way that sustainability, the water, I mean, the whole thing is again a work of art. And just for that, I buy the wine just because the approach is second to none. But it's true that the blue bottle, it's to me, it's a real put off. I mean, maybe it's because of historic, I know, and you have some really blue bottles like Blue Nut that really you don't want to approach.
Let's not mention the two on the same call.
No, they're not the same thing. No, 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 not at all, at all, at all, at all, at all, at all, at all. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, the blue hint on the bottle is not really what. Maybe I'm too classic. Maybe I'm too classic, but still, what is important is what's inside that bottle, and that bottle is actually quite stunning. So it comes from a sub-region called Valdosalnes. So we are in Rias Baixas, northwest of Spain, just above Portugal, actually. So obviously a massive influence from the ocean. 100% Albarino, even though there is and Maya Blanca that could be on the blend. That will depend on the sub-region and the location as such. So this project started in 1987, just before actually Rias Baixas gained his own, so basically a high quality in the Spanish nomenclature. And then now they have almost 60 hectares of vineyards, so quite a lot. But again, given the climatology of that place, you don't harvest 60 hectares. You harvest usually 35, 40 maybe, because there's a lot of rot, there's a lot of issues with the weather. I mean, they said that Galicia they call it the green Spain because in data based, it rains more than in Kent. So it's a statement. So imagine, red and grape variety, they go well because grape variety are very thirsty as a fruit. But when you sit that close to the ground, that humidity doesn't really work well for vineyards. So they created a new way. I mean, it's now secular, but basically it's called pergolas. And the vineyards, the fruits are about 2 meters high. So instead of harvesting with your knee on the ground, you're actually harvesting on the top of a chair or ladder because it's
Which
not.
one friendlier to your back? I don't know. Probably the standing up, but for your hands, I think you
I
have
mean,
to be muscular.
a bit of this, and a bit of that would be the perfect balance and harmony. But in this region, you have both. You have the pergolas and the classic. That again, that will depends really where you are according to the ocean. I mean, again, the elevation on top of everything.
And the wind as well, because some parts are very windy, and that can blow all that moist and wet.
True, and that blows also all the different disease and so on and so forth. The wind is a very curative element of any winemaking region. The soul of that property is actually a plot of 7.8 hectares just around the winemaking facilities. All is hand harvested, again, stainless steel through that to maintain that acidity profile, that freshness, that style, that liveliness of Albarino. And again, absolutely no oak. There's no oak. There's no, if they don't want it and they're not interested. And to be honest, you see a little bit sometimes some oak edge Albarino, but it's not really a trend that will continue because Albarino doesn't take oak very well. And I don't think there's a point to make it with oak. And 2021, compared to what we talked about 2019, for example, in Bierzo, is rather the opposite, is a bumper crop. It's basically everything came natural delivered, fantastic ripe as well as generous vintage when it comes to fruit. So there's plenty of that wine available. And even though you could think that it's a generous harvest, therefore there could be a little bit of unbalance. Not for those guys. They managed to really again bring everything into the winery. Obviously they probably scattered away 20% just to make sure that they got only the top fruit, but they're very conscious. It shows in the wine. It really shows in the wine with that beautiful tautness. That's what my tasting notes, open and forward, still developing. And then it's really green, lime juice, unripe mango, acacia, chamomile, blossom, ginger with intense mineral and saline. There's definitely that sort of sea breeze character that is transformed into the wine. There's a sort of salty tonality that really kind of entices you. You have the nut in the nose, and then you're like, oh, I want to taste it. I really want to taste it. And then when that wine hits that mid palate, it's the super freshness, the lift, again with lime, lemon zest, unripe melon, nectarine, blossom. There's definitely a touch of mint or verbal character there. And then the more saline sea breeze that comes to the fore. Medium weight, it's not massive. It's all about freshness, tonality, elegance, and drinkability. It's just pinched to the max with that acidity that is a combination of the sort of unripe fruit character and then the Albarino, basically a vivacity and a high intensity profile, and then that sort of elongates throughout the palate, and then that sort of sea breeze, salted again coming through, and then finish with a beautiful sort of peachy mango, a little bit quincy, and then yeah, super long freshness, super long finish, and the only thing to do is basically have another glass and another glass, and well, the bottle is gone. Oh, let's open another one. It's one of those ones party of four, you will have two bottles. It's a no brainer.
Yeah.
You will have two bottles because it's just once you start to open it, and it's so versatile in terms of when do you drink it. Your friend arrived, you put the cork on that, you serve it. There's no need of decanting whatever. You just serve it straight away. Welcome, sit down, blah 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 blah. A few things on the table, tara masala or hummus or whatever, because of that acidity as an aperitif will work wonders. And then you move on to the starters, something green. For me, steamed asparagus with a muslin sauce. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And seafood, I'm guessing as well.
Yeah, I mean that's I mean you don't even need to to really go that it's definitely there. I mean oysters, anything that is seafood fresh, direct from the Genoa Sea is gonna work wonders. But also fresh cheeses, steamed or even roasted textured and meaty fish, sea bass, sea bream, pike, if you like saltwater fish, but also clear water fish. This one will work wonders with that beautiful, absolutely fantastic acidity and freshness. It's just it's so much the archetype of what a great Albarino should be tasting like. It's a recipe for pleasure. There's no question.
And I was just going to mention something to you because I know you are very keen on the temperature of the wine. So, in case you make a mistake, these guys put something on the back of the label. If you have it in front of you, it says when the wine is chilled at the right serving temperature, a small boat appears and disappears when it's too warm from consumption. And I'm not even joking. The small boat is somewhere there.
Yeah, they will. That's the thing is those guys they
Now,
will.
I think the blue bottle I can live with, but this is too much. I mean, for me, it's just,
It's they will probably justify that they want to be drunk between 8 and 10.
yeah,
If it's 40 degrees and you are in the south of Spain, yes, then I agree. But if you are in London or if you're in Paris or anywhere in the on sort of this latitude, and even though it's a warm day, you shouldn't drink that
mm,
was so cold because you're gonna lose all the flavor.
yeah,
To me, if you maintain that between the sort of 12 to 15,
mm,
12 to 15 to get a nice range, then
yeah,
you'll have a lot more pleasure, a lot more flavor profile, a lot more for your money because the wine will deliver, will talk to
yeah.
you as such. If you go on the spectrum of the 6-8, yes, it's cold, but
It's going to be refreshing. Yes, exactly.
drink water with ice and a bit of lemon, and it's less expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have one big question for you. Out of the three wines, because this is going to be tough. Out of the three wines, which one would you go for?
No, it's a tricky one.
It
I
is
go
a tricky one, isn't it? Sorry?
I go Bierzo.
I'm torn between Bierzo and the Douro. I'm not sure. It's maybe because of the weather. I might go with the Douro, but the Bierzo is lovely as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And the Mar de Frades is like just, yeah,
I've always
iconic
been
as well.
more of a red drinker than a white drinker to start with, even though I
Yeah,
think the Albarino is a delicious wine, don't get me wrong.
yeah,
But again, exactly, the weather-wise, quite cold out there, cause for me a bit more rusticity, a bit more
mhm,
oomph. And so I'll go Bierzo because it has that sort of drinkability that is just unique.
yeah,
Really, really good wine. Very, very good wine. I was really impressed when I tasted that.
yeah. I think they all three great wines, and
No
they
question.
all very different as well. So
Yeah. Whomever comes across those 3 bottles of wines will have pleasure. There's no question.
and they all come in a small box through your letterbox,
Yeah.
either in 3s or 6s, what you can see behind me up there. I think it's again, just to remind people, a fantastic way to taste wine, to learn about wine, to, as you mentioned, to play around with wine, because you can try different things as well. Quality is amazing. The wines are very good as well. But yeah, I think that was a very good tasting, actually. So
Yeah. Again.
brilliant. Chris, thank you for your time and for your expertise as usual. And we see you guys next time, I suppose.
Yes, exactly. Look after yourself. Drink some good wines. Life is too short to drink bad wine anyway.
Exactly. You deserve the best. Cheers, guys.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.